On the line, we are very honoured to have Geoff Thompson, the legendary martial artist, BAFTA-winning author of 34 books, published in 15 languages, 5 multi-award-winning films, 3 stage plays, and hundreds of published articles. Thanks very much for agreeing to have a chat with me today on the Hard Target podcast. Firstly, let me congratulate you on the success of the film Romans 2012. I have to say, absolutely amazing film. I suppose the first question is, in relation to the film, I suppose the inspiration, and did you imagine that the film would be such a huge success and greeted so well by so many people?
No, I didn't. Well, I suppose I should have known, really, because it's got divinity in it. It's a touchy subject. It's about sexual abuse. It's about forgiveness. It's about the metaphysical power of forgiveness. And I always know when I'm scared of a subject, when I'm scared to write about it, when I'm nervous about it, that it normally always ends up really good. The areas that we fear to kind of look at are the areas that normally end up producing good stuff. So I should have known, really. But when I wrote the script, I was a bit nervous about sending it to the directors because the script felt too simple. It just felt it didn't feel like there was enough, but it was everything I'd got. So I sent it to them, but they loved it, and I was really shocked at how much subtext they brought out of it and what what they brought to it. They really lifted it off the page and took it to another level. So I was, when I watched it, I just thought, yeah, this is how I want to see my films. It was a great representation of the words, and we're making it into a feature now. So the short film got us a job doing it as a feature, which is great.
Brilliant. And you mentioned the divinity in the film, and it seems to have a very sort of potent message. One of the things that really sort of strikes me is, while it's specific in many regards to one religion, it does call on a sort of an overall spirituality, incorporating spirituality as a whole, and seems to address and embrace spirituality across the board. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I mean, I was brought up Christian. I love Jesus Christ. I pray to Jesus Christ. Culturally, that suits me. But I still see myself as much as a Muslim, a Sikh, a Hindu, a Buddhist. I associate with all of those things. We're human beings, aren't we? I don't think we're Catholics or Protestants or black or white or Asian or Caucasian. I don't think we're any of that. I think we're human beings, and different people have different religions that suit their culture. But the Greek translation of religion just means is religare. It just means to reconnect man to man, reconnect man to God, man to his source. So for me, I am religious, but not in the sense that most people think. I'm not dogmatic. If I read the Torah, which I love, which is in the Old Testament, the first 5 books of the Old Testament, I see the same words if I read the Bhagavad Gita, which is one of the Hindu texts.
Sure.
If I read the Upanishads, it says they all say the same things. The Guru Granth Sahib. If you pick up Lao Tzu, the Tao Te Ching about Taoism, they all say the same. For me, they all talk about the same thing. They talk about the fact that the kingdom is in us, but to access the kingdom, we need to find the frequency of love. We need to live a righteous life. And obviously, as I said, we're all humans, so we all fail at that quite a lot. We fall down. But for me, it's about being congruent. It's about saying, I'm doing my best. I'm trying to live a righteous life. And I'm trying to cleanse myself of anything that's stopping that from happening. My goal is to expand my authentic self and have more connection with the world around me, with the universe, with divinity. And when I do films like this, I feel it. I feel that connection through it, and I feel it on the page. I feel it in the words, in the acting. I feel it in the music. I feel it all the way through. It's a great experience.
Sure. The film, I mean, has a very, very powerful message about one person's personal journey in forgiveness. Do you think that forgiveness is an important thing for a person to grow within themselves?
If they want to be free, Pat, We've got to forgive everybody. And
Sure.
people have the wrong interpretation of forgiveness. They think forgiving somebody is letting them off. When you have a profound understanding of depth psychology or of, just karmic law, just, cause and effect, we know that we can't let people off. We can forgive them, and then when we forgive them, we disentangle ourselves from the situation and from their karma. But they still have their karma to unfold. They still probably will have to have their day in court. They still have to carry around the sin of their deed in them. It's in their bones. It's in their sinews. It's recorded. It's recorded on the soul, just like this podcast is recorded on a tape recorder. So I have a great understanding of that. I have great compassion for people who have sinned, because I know they've got to see it again. Those pebbles will be counted at some point, and that they will have to live it all over again. I know that for a fact, because I've done it myself. I've done a lot of bad things in my life and had to atone for them. So forgiveness for me is about freeing myself. It's about I can gain autonomy and control over my past by forgiving everything that's happened, forgiving myself, forgiving other people, and then even not just forgiving them, but also having compassion for the fact that their karma's got to unfold, and it won't be nice to watch. There was a lovely old saying that said, if you sit by the riverbank for long enough, you'll watch the bodies of all your enemies float by. I've found that to be so true, and I have also found that when they do float by, you don't feel good about it. You recognise their humanness, even in this paedophile that sexually abused me. When he committed suicide and hung himself, I felt tremendous compassion, because it was a wasted life. He was a brilliant man who could have done something wonderful, and he fell into one of the easy traps. And I felt real compassion for him. So forgiving people doesn't mean that they don't have their day in court. It doesn't mean all that. It just means you've got to let go of that hate. If you're feeling hate, you're in a frequency of hate, and that's you don't get rid of black by adding black. It's about freeing yourself from it, and that's also a process, Pat. That's not. It took me a long time to forgive people from my past. It's took me a long time to forgive myself. So it's the process of gradually letting go of these little bundles of death that are in us. So somebody that abused me 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, if I don't forgive him, he's still abusing me today. He's still in me. He's still a memory. He's still part of my conditioning. He's still part of my script. So I have to cleanse that out. So that's why I forgive people. I don't do it for them. I do it for me, and it allows me to disconnect with them. And then you watch them spiral. They have no power over you, and then you watch their karma unfold, and it's not nice to watch. But that's what the point for me is. If people are interested in becoming powerful, then this is a metaphysical power, but it's hidden in plain sight. It's one of those lovely truths hidden in plain sight.
Sure. And I suppose just on the topic, supposing for anybody listening to this who's finding it hard to get to a point of forgiveness in themselves, whether it be with a similar issue or just in a general issue, somebody that they can't get past forgiving, would you have any little tips or advice for them how they can set their own path in motion?
I think first of all you've got to be clear. People won't. If people think that forgiving is letting people off, they probably won't ever forgive, because they want to see justice.
Yeah.
So I would say don't become a victim of whatever's happened to you, and don't become a martyr to that. Don't let it become your identity. You need to be bigger than that, and you need to be stronger than that, and you need to look at it intelligently. It's not about letting people off. It's about letting them go. Forgiveness means to give over to a greater force, to give over to a greater power. One of the tips I do, what I've done, if I've got people in me, and I feel a lot of anger, and I feel a lot of resentment. And again, anger and resentment can be good, because anger and resentment is better than apathy and depression. You can climb out of a hole with anger, but you don't want to stay in that place. You need to go to higher levels. So for me, it's what I do is if I've got those negative feelings inside me, I access them. I observe the feelings as a separate person. I find a part of me that you call the observer. I actually observe the feelings. I feel them until they dissolve. And quite often what I'll do is I'll find the people that have hurt me. I'll access them in my mind, in my meditation, and I'll embrace them. I'll hug them.
Sure.
I'll tell them I love them. Even though that's really difficult to do, even though that goes against everything inside me, I'll still do that. Because I refuse to be controlled by these people. I refuse to be controlled by my past. I refuse to be controlled by someone that's abused me. So I embrace them. I fill them with love, and then that's how I get rid of it. When you bring light to something, whatever you bring light to becomes light. So, and if something's in the darkness and you bring it to light, it becomes light. So it's practicing that. And again, this is about being courageous. This is almost about being anti-intuitive. And it's about finding them and freeing yourself by bringing love to the situation. And that's what Romans 12:20 says. It's one of the letters that Paul wrote to the Romans, St. Paul. And he said, if thine enemy hunger, feed him. If he thirst, give him drink. For in so doing, thou shalt heap fires of coal on his head. So it's saying when you forgive somebody, if you really want revenge, forgive them, because it will be like, for them it'll be like pouring hot coal on the head. Give them everything back. So it's a metaphysical power. So again, access them, pray for them, meditate on them, bring them to mind, and keep embracing them until all those feelings have gone. It's a shamanic exercise.
That's absolutely wonderful. Thank you, Geoff, for sharing that, really, and wish you absolutely every success with this becoming a feature film. I have to say, cannot wait. Really looking forward to it. And do you have any other projects on the boil at the moment, or?
I'm working on Romans the feature. I did a novel called Red Mist, which is being made into a feature film at the moment. I've got another 2 feature films that I'm working on with the Shamazian brothers. I've got a play coming on at the Belgrade Theatre in Coventry in October. I've got a book called The Caretaker, which is coming out in the next month or so. I've got a short film, a half-hour film called Counting Backwards, which we've just finished shooting. We should be bringing that out in the next couple of months. We're shooting the last few days on the 17th and 18th of this month. Once that's made, we'll get that out into the world. That's another beautiful film about courage. It's about a young girl. It's a true story about a friend of mine who got raped at knife point when she was 14. But she was so determined not to let this guy rule her life that she said, I'm going to go back out into the world and I'm going to live. 2 weeks later, Pat, she sat in McDonald's in Coventry. She looks across and she sees her rapist. He sat in the corner with his wife and children. She recognised him. So she tells the manager of the shop. Obviously, she feels terrified and she wants to run. The manager closes all the doors, locks all the doors, puts guards on every door, calls the police, and she gets him arrested there and then. So it's a real powerful story about overcoming these setbacks that we have in life, overcoming these traumas that we experience.
Sure. Wow. That sounds absolutely amazing. And I suppose one of the things, I mean, just talking there, over the years, I mean, you've achieved so much absolutely amazing accomplishments in the worlds of martial arts and real combatives. I suppose one of the big things for me would have been Defense, the DVD that you made, and the one thing that strikes me about Defense is not only does it have a physical application, but it also has an emotional application and quite a spiritual one. It's something that's you carry with you. And I've sort of realised that people are having a rough time at the moment, and society in general it's going through a lot of change. And do you find, and I remember you mentioning before that Defense is making a little bit of a comeback. Yeah. Is there anything that you attribute to that, or do you think that Defense has more relevance even today than it may have in the past? Or
I think people are, recognising truth, aren't they, Pat? There's a lovely line in the I Ching. It says, "When you speak a true word, even in company, it will be heard 1,000 miles away. So how much stronger will it be heard close up? And if you tell a lie or you're incongruent, that will be heard 1,000 miles away. How much louder will it be heard close up?" So it's basically saying when you have a truth, when you have something that's honest, when you have something that's stripped of ostentation, it will travel across the world without you having to advertise it. So this has taken a while with the fence, but the fence is a life-saving technique that you can use in a physical situation. It basically enables you to control the gap between you and the person in front of you. If there's an assault about to take place, the most dangerous point in that situation is that gap. I learned to use it to control people, control that gap. Later on, because I renounced violence and went into the healing side of things, I realised the fence could be used for healing as well. It's a way to anchor your message and to transmute love, this touch. So I started to use it as a way of moving the energy around in people, giving them energy, letting them access God or love through me. So I found it became a good method for me to transmute that kind of energy. What I've tried to do with people now, especially because, like I say, people are talking about the recession and difficult times, and I understand that there's a lot of fear about. But I would ask people to look at the divine economy rather than look at the kind of monetary economy. Look at the divine economy. There is no recession in the divine economy. In the Upanishads, it says they took abundance from abundance, and abundance still remained. And it's because what we can access through God, through love, whatever your word for it is, it doesn't matter. I'll use the word God, but whatever you access through love is infinite. It's inexhaustible. There is enough for everybody. There's enough for everybody. So in the divine economy, if you connect to the divine economy, there is no recession. There is always access to energy, and that's basically all money is. Money is an exchange. The exchange of money is an exchange of energy, and the value of that, exchange is determined by market conditions. It's determined by perception, people's perception of what something's worth, but mostly it's determined by the quality of your energy. See, if you have congruent energy, if you have energy that's coming from the divine, so it's coming through a clear funnel, so that your thinking, your speaking, and your doing are aligned, or what Freud said, the ego, the superego, and the id are aligned, and they're connected to the divine. So if you imagine we're connected to the big electric box in the sky, we're connected to everything. If you have a clear and congruent and true message, that energy that you have is of the greatest value. People will travel across the world just to be in the company of people that are transmitting that energy. That's why it's always, for me, it's when I do talks, when I do classes, it's always a real honour when people travel to come and train with me. Or I had a guy on the last masterclass who travelled from New Zealand. He came to live in Europe for 6 months just to do this once a month masterclass. So the energy they're picking up is divine, and it's clear. And again, I'm not going to sound like I'm being a great bloke, Pat. I have many days where I fall off, and my energy is as dirty as anybody else's, because I've got my own things I'm working on. But when I teach, I prepare the room and I ask God to come through. I get out of my own way. So if we want to really make a difference in the world, and we want to sit and rest above the kind of societal recession, we just need to cleanse our energy. We need to have something pure. So if you want real value, if you want your energy to be of the ultimate value, then just cleanse it. That's really what I teach people. I teach people self-defense against the self.
Amazing. And about the Aidan here, the head instructor at Hard Target, he's been very, very influenced by you and by your teaching, and would often talk to us about what you've taught him and about establishing a warrior mindset. For any of his students, have you any advice on how best to go about establishing a warrior mindset, or what it means to adapt a warrior mindset?
Well, I've written a book on it, so there's a whole book really in this subject. It's called Warrior, and it's really just saying to people, there's no need for you to go out and attack Rome. There's no need for you to take on the Al-Qaeda. There's no need for you to take on the greedy bankers or the corrupt politicians All you need to do at the moment is work at home and take the fundamentalism, the greed, and the corruption out of yourself. Cleanse yourself. If you can become a sovereign over yourself, it's more powerful than being sovereign over 10,000 armies. This is what all the great books tell you. So work on yourself. People can change the world, but they still can't change their socks one today. People want to take on fundamentalists, and suicide bombers, but they still can't settle the differences with their own wife or with their own family. They still haven't. They want to improve the economy, but they can't even get their own bodily economy right. So it's saying to people, the exciting thing is, all you have to do is work on yourself. Get your food right. Cleanse yourself, what you're eating, what you're drinking, what you listen to on the radio, your influences, the people you talk to, the books you read, the television programs that you watch, the radio that you listen to. All of this information is food. It's what your body's made up of. We're made up of information. So change the information, cleanse the information, and all the old scripts. Get rid of all the addictions that you carry. Kill the addictions. All your power's locked into the addictions. Forgive everybody that's hurt you. Forgive them all, because if you're not forgiving them, you're carrying them. We can take a lot of weight off. If we can do that and really cleanse ourselves, then we can get greater access to divinity. Once you're into the divine economy, there's no recession. There's no need to worry about recession, because you can access as much energy as you want, anytime you want, and then you can use that as a means of barter. You can build cathedrals with it, or you can go and live in the woods if you want. Whatever you want to do, you can do it. You can access it. And all of the great books tell us this. All of them tell you. All of them say the same thing. In the Bhagavad Gita, which is a great book taken from the Indian classic, the Mahabharata, it says, "Lift the self by the self. Never let the self droop down. The self is the self's only friend. The self is the self's only enemy." We just need to keep working on ourselves. So I'll just say to them, don't worry about what other people are doing right and wrong. Just work on being a great person. And remember, you are only as good as your worst game. It's no good being the best, loveliest guy in the club when you're treating your wife and your kids and your mum and your dad terribly. It's no good being a wonderful martial arts teacher if you're still kicking off in road rage. We're only as balanced as our worst game. So what we've got to do is we've got to get our worst game up to our top game, so there's a congruence. And we've got to recognise that there's the opportunity every single day to serve people, to love people, to pass on goodness. Every single day there's a dozen opportunities to do that. And if we can do that and treat everybody the same, because they are all the same, whether the guy's sweeping the floor or whether he's the head of £100 million conglomerate, it doesn't make no difference. They're human beings, they're connected to God. So we treat them all equally. We treat them all with reverence. And we recognise that if they're placed in front of us, it's because they need to be served. That's the divine economy. When we can do that selflessly, then we can really start to connect to power. But again, it's no good, like I said, it's no good, someone said to me once, it was a girl, I said, "Oh, your husband is a great guy. He's a great guy. He has everyone in bits down the pub." She says, "Yeah, well, you want to follow him home one day and see what a great guy he is at home." Because at home, he wasn't a great guy. He wasn't on his best game at all. This guy, if you said to this guy today, Pat, "I've got to drive a settee up to Edinburgh, from Coventry to Edinburgh for my friend," he would jump in his van and take it up there for you without hesitating. At home, he wouldn't do a single thing. He was an ogre at home. Yeah. So it's trying to look at that and think, most people don't give their family, even a stranger's, respect. So it's trying to look and think, we've got to treat everybody with reverence. Everybody, especially the people that challenge us most, try and bring love to them. It's a real challenge, but that's what Budo is all about. That's what martial arts is all about. It's about the sovereignty, and that's what excites me. That's what gets me up in the morning.
Absolutely. And I suppose, I know you're a very, very busy man, Geoff, so I suppose one very last quick question. You've been an absolutely huge inspiration to people, throughout the martial arts industry, and as one person described it, the most influential martial artist since Bruce Lee, which I thought was a wonderful, wonderful way.
Isn't it?
Absolutely
wonderful. To write that line back. And a lot of thinking when I wrote that line.
But you've met quite a number of very, very sort of famous people. I suppose one that we'd all know is Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
But just looking back throughout history, present day, if there was one person you could sit down, have a cup of coffee with, who would that be?
I think it would have to be Mahatma Gandhi, because he's been such an influence to me. He's been a massive influence because he went from a standing start. He was a sex addict. He used to visit prostitutes. He was very physically weak. He was very scared. He was a lawyer, but he was a terrible lawyer. He never won a case for 2 years. And he was just a normal man, but scared of life. And through control of palate and through self-sovereignty, he went on to have 300 million followers, and he changed the course of history. One man. And my friend said her granddad was actually a policeman in the room with him when he was on one of his fasting, when he was fasting once, and he said just being in the room with him changed him forever, because that divinity resonated out. So I'd like to have experienced that, and I'd like to have, and of course you can access him. You can access him through books and stuff, but that's I'd like to have just been in the company of somebody like that, just to feel that, and just to. I don't know whether he'd have been able to give me any answers. Everybody has to cut their own path, but when you are in the company of people who excel, it does jump across. It's like electricity. That's why people go to the graves of great poets and saints and prophets. That's why people go to Mecca. That's why people like to go to Rome. That's why they like to visit, the living place and the dying place of great people, because that energy is still there, it's still relevant, it's still real. And you can go there, you go to Lourdes, and people get that energy still. It's still, so that's why I think it's important to train with good people. It's important to be in the company of good people. It's important to invest in yourself, and have if you can't meet the people, get the books, read the articles, because that, whatever it is that people have got, will jump across.
Excellent. Well, thank you very much, Geoff, for taking the time this morning. As I say, I know you are very, very busy.
And for you and for Aidan. Aidan's one of my favourite people. He's a wonderful martial artist, and I hear from lots of people that he helps a lot of people in Ireland, and if I can facilitate that, he's a great facilitator. These kind of podcasts facilitate people. If I can help in any way, then I want to do that. I don't think there's many people in. I don't think there are many. I don't know whether there are many martial artists in Ireland at the moment who I'd rate more than Aidan. He's just such a powerful presence, and I know he's on his own journey and he's working on stuff, and I just think he's going to become global.
Yeah, he's absolutely, and he's a great mentor to me, and has been helping me with my own sort of personal journey, and he's a great inspiration. Well, thank you very much, Geoff. It's an absolute honour as always, and would just like to take the opportunity to wish you every success with your up and coming projects. And if anybody wants to find out more about you, I'll be posting links to your website as well. They can go over, have a look, and keep an eye on what you're doing as well. But thank you for everything, for the time today, but also for everything that you've taught Aidan, and that's been passed on to me and to the class. Thanks from all of us here.
Thanks very much.
Okay, thank you very much, Geoff.
Bye.
Okay.